Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Arturo.
How are you?
I am well. Thank you for inviting me.
Very happy to have you here in Paris live. Very excited to have this interview and especially to have it in person. Very nice that you do this traveling that allow us to have you today here in Paris. So it's been almost 10 years, I think, more or less, since I known you in person, and obviously I've been following the D&O Diary since I started my career in insurance. And as you know now, in addition to my activities as underwriter, I'm also working on this personal project, the D&O Training Hub. And the idea is to have this informal interview with you to know more about your career, your experiences, and your knowledge, and explore this part that maybe not everybody knows about you. And obviously, many people know you because of the D&O Diary, which many people follow all over the world. We know you have a long career. You know, I think if I'm correct, 40 years in the insurance industry.
Even more, but yes,
oh,
many years.
More than 40 years. So that's very impressive, and especially all the success that you had. And I was wondering how you started in insurance. If you can tell us a little bit about maybe even your background, what your background is, and how you got into the insurance industry.
So I didn't set out to go into insurance like many people in the industry. I was a lawyer practicing law in Washington, D.C. in the United States, and I was working for a law firm based on Pennsylvania Avenue, prestigious law firm. It was a good job too. And I developed an expertise in handling coverage litigation. And very early in my practice with that firm, I started working on D&O claims. And like anything else, once I'd handled one, I was the expert.
Yeah.
And so I started getting a steady stream of D&O coverage disputes. I didn't know, I had no way of knowing that the reason these D&O claims were coming in is we were about to start a financial phenomenon in the U.S. That now is known as the S&L crisis, the savings and loan crisis. There was starting in about 1984 or 1985, there were a series of bank failures in the United States, and it actually went on several years. And so I had no way of knowing that the expertise I was developing was going to turn out to be extraordinarily useful for my clients and for myself. And developed a practice specializing just in D&O coverage litigation, and was very happy doing that. But what it did is I developed a professional reputation, and that led to me being invited to join a startup insurance company that was going to begin doing business in Cleveland, Ohio. And that's probably a much longer story all on its own, why I was amenable to the idea of moving from Washington to Cleveland. But I accepted the opportunity to move to Cleveland and run claims for this new startup insurance facility. Within a very short time of joining this new company, the gentleman that founded it decided he wanted to do something else. So I wound up running this company that he had started, and I did that for 10 years. And it was a great experience. In effect, I had to develop a business plan, develop strategy, develop forms, hire people, developing a marketing strategy, come up with a way to manage the claims that were inevitably going to be coming in. And it was a great challenge and also a great deal of fun. It really was enjoyable to build this great team of people. That was my favorite part of that job. I had a great team of people. But so it was not like I set out to do any of those things. The opportunity really kind of found me. But as I always say to my kids, always be open to opportunity, and don't hesitate to take a good risk, even if you're sacrificing something that seems secure, like being a partner in a law firm in Washington, D.C., to do something that, might seem a little risky. But the entrepreneurial opportunity appealed to me. Being a litigator in a U.S.-style litigation system is a very stressful way to make a living. I had 3 small children. All of these things contributed. Probably the hardest part was the willingness to move, to leave the city where I'd grown up, to move to a place I'd never lived before and go from one of the world's most important cities to a provincial town in the middle of the U.S. I think a lot of people found that the most surprising thing, that I was willing to do that.
Yeah, well, we have spent some time together today, I know that Cleveland probably is not known for being the most exciting city, so probably that was
That's a fair statement.
So what was like the main thing that really pushed you to go and say I'm gonna go and do that? Because you said some things, the stress of the price firm and everything.
Yeah.
There was like a risky move.
Yeah, the appeal of the entrepreneurial opportunity. I was 37. My kids were still small, so that I could easily move. We could easily move. The chance to try and develop the business plan and business model that we saw excited me. It was an alternative to continuing to litigate. But also, Cleveland itself is a very lovely city. Most people don't know that. It's very affordable. It was a great place to raise our children. And that was apparent from the very beginning, that we would be able to enjoy a lifestyle at a level that we couldn't have afforded in Washington, D.C. So that appealed to us as well.
And I believe you're still living there. So
I am. 4 jobs later, I am still.
That means it's not too much a bad place to live.
It is. It's not as exciting as Paris, perhaps. You might be surprised to hear me say that, but it's a great place to live.
So, are there any success that you had on this first job, or things that didn't go as expected? Any things that that comes to
I'm
mind?
very proud of what we did during that time. We went from essentially a standing start with essentially very little premium to becoming an important player in the public company D&O space. And we did that by building a team of very talented people, none of whom had prior insurance experience. That was actually one of my hiring criteria.
Really?
I didn't want preconceived notions. I wanted to develop an attitude towards the process and the product that was built with kind of general professionalism that a lawyer or a person in business might have, that I didn't think was common in the insurance space. So I wanted people that were going to take professional pride in becoming skilled at being a D&O underwriter or a D&O claims handler. So I didn't hire from elsewhere in the industry. All of my hires came from outside the industry.
It wasn't too hard to train them to become.
Well, they were smart. I was fortunate that I hired very smart people who were interested in the opportunity and willing to learn, and became very good very quickly at what we did. But we took some unusual approaches. We weren't doing it. I had not been a D&O insurance underwriter either, by the way.
Yeah, that's true.
So we took a different approach, and I think we moved the market a little bit because we introduced some approaches to the business that were unconventional. For example, we offered, in addition to the risk transfer opportunity through the insurance product, we offered a suite of risk management tools designed to try and help the companies become better risks. And that allowed us, as a startup, very small player, to very quickly develop a profile within the industry. We wanted to target IPO companies, which was perceived, perhaps correctly perceived, as riskier business. So we developed a lot of mental or intellectual approaches to the risk to understand within the universe of companies that complete IPOs, which ones are likely to succeed, which ones are likely to have problems, what are the characteristics that describe the companies that wind up having claims, and using that to develop a pricing and underwriting model. And we were able to do that because we had this team of really talented, smart people who participated actively in that process. Right. I had one gentleman who was extremely skilled with high-level mathematics, which proved to be extremely valuable in translating sort of the legal knowledge around what the risk was and turning that into an arithmetic financial proposition. And that was instrumental in us becoming a successful business platform.
Well, when you describe that, I think even for today's standard, that's almost sounds like quite advanced. Even I don't know if today we have all these pricing tools, all these models, but what are you describing? It sounds already quite sophisticated.
When we started, we were the first ones to have a model. The way the industry pricing went then is pricing was done by asset size. And you ask anybody, why are you pricing by asset size? What does that have to do with the risk? And they would say, well, because that's the way we did it at AIG. And that was basically the industry standard at that time. Not to say anything negative about AIG.
To tell you the truth, many people are still using assets as the basing criteria, which if for some reason is still there.
Yeah, it may or may not make sense in the private company space, but in the U.S., it doesn't even overlap at all with the risk that you're trying to underwrite against when you decide whether to accept a public company D&O risk.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And probably the next question, then what was the next after, why that venture or that stage in your career ended, and what happened? What happened next?
The end wasn't entirely voluntary. I didn't appreciate at the time, but an indispensable element in everything working the way it did was that I had strong support within my corporation. And then the person whose sponsorship and mentorship really made it all possible retired. And as a result of his retirement, there was a reorganization, and I then wound up reporting in a completely different way within the corporation. And that was not nearly as successful from my perspective. I didn't have the same support, and I didn't have the same relationship corporately. And I realized how much had depended on having that strong intra-corporate mentorship and sponsorship. And I tried to make it work for about a year after all the changes. And to make a long and painful story short, essentially I resigned before I got fired. I think I was borderline insubordinate because I really believed in what we'd built and really believed in our model. And that had enjoyed corporate support previously, but it no longer did once the changes. And we were perceived as far riskier than I thought we were. After I left, my colleagues, this great team of people, one by one, started making their own business decisions. And I wasn't there, so I don't know everything that happened. But within a relatively short time after I left, they put the program in runoff. And but it just, circumstances change. A lot of things contribute to a successful working environment, work relationship, and we didn't have all of the necessary elements.
I mean, I can see that situation, and also from my personal experience, the times where I had been more successful also in different companies that I work for is where I where I had a adequate work environment, trust, communication, and that helps a lot as underwriter. When you have that trust that allows you to conduct the business, obviously in a responsible manner, that makes a big difference. Than when you have situations where, for one reason or other, there's some sort of lack of trust, and you lose autonomy and you lose some freedom. It becomes difficult to operate.
That is all true. That is all true.
So for the people who are watching this interview, I think one for me evident takeaway and from your comments, I can see that happened to you is yes, that work environment with your team, with your superiors, that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And then what happened next?
Yeah, so I was unemployed for about 6 months, and I spent that 6 months considering a lot of different things, including some opportunities completely outside of the insurance industry. And ultimately, the reason I wound up making the move I did, which was to become a wholesale insurance broker, the way I was going about my search is I was just calling people I knew and talking to them about what they were doing, about what they saw in the industry, opportunities they might be aware of, who they thought I should talk to. And I had two colleagues that I knew from my days as an underwriter. They were themselves wholesale insurance brokers. And they were part of they had been part of a prior company. And I knew that company, for a lot of reasons, was dissolving. What I didn't know was what they were going to do next. And I just happened to run into the two of them at an industry event. And we started talking, and I had no anticipation that I would become a wholesale insurance broker. But the more the three of us talked, the more it started to make sense that we would do something together. And so after a subsequent all-day meeting where we just kind of threw ideas around, they had already formed a partnership, but I joined their partnership. And that was I joined in March 2006. And it was a small wholesale insurance brokerage specializing on D&O insurance. And it really took advantage of the skill sets that I had acquired through my legal practice and through being an underwriter. And that business proved to be very successful. And I thoroughly enjoyed that phase of my career. I turned 50 when I was in the middle of that job transition. And to anybody that's listening to this, I highly recommend changing your job when you turn 50, because I really enjoyed the challenge.
I'm going to turn 50 soon, so
I felt...
I'll take note of that.
The thing for me, Arturo, was I felt adrenaline for the first time in years. And it was a really good feeling. I woke up in the morning charged up because I was being challenged. I had to learn a new skill set. I had to develop business. I had to go develop business, and it was great fun.
I had other colleagues who make the change from underwriting or from being with an insurer to being a broker.
Yeah.
And most of the time, I heard it's not that easy because it's a very different business model, and some people suffer a little bit on the transition. But maybe this was not the case for you.
Well, there was some pain in the transition. It was very hard at the beginning when I had no business and I had to figure out how was I going to get business. The good news is I've been around the industry at that point for a number of years. And so just continuing to talk to colleagues and contacts and, that allowed me to get access to people that could help me find the business. And it took time, but fortunately that part worked out.
Very nice. Well, and you think there were some skills or experiences when you were on the insurance side that helped you in your this transition and to be successful on this new venture? Or any advice for people who are considering moving, or making that change from insurer to broker?
The answer is yes, but I would say this is true really for any industry, that the skill sets fall into two categories. The first is sort of general skills, then the second is technical skills. So on the general skills, I think being able to communicate in writing and in speech, being able to relate to different kinds of people and understand what their pressure points are and what their concerns are. I think being a good listener is important. Those are all things that I think are true in any enterprise. But then when you get to the technical skills, understanding the legal background and having a solid knowledge base, having an awareness of the insurance business understanding the constraints that capital and regulations and the law put on our business, having an appreciation of how the profit motive is going to drive decision making for so many layers of the process. I think having all of those things are important. I think also having been a lawyer, then having been an underwriter, essentially I was sitting at different seats at the table. And so having an appreciation for the motivations of those people at those seats at the table really is important. And I think I would recommend that to anyone to develop that kind of perspective. I think it helps you be a better underwriter if you understand the broker's motivation. I think it helps you be a better claims representative if you've done the underwriting or you understand what the broker's interest in the situation is. So I think that's very helpful to have that kind of perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my question is, do you think you had, as a broker, maybe as underwriter as well, now that you're talking about your period as broker, did you feel you had any competitive advantage with respect to other brokers? And for you, what it was? Let's say, what's the difference that makes the difference for you when you were a broker?
I think
if you can share with us.
Yeah, I can share. I don't know how helpful it will be because sort of everybody's experience, is a reflection of the crazy walk we all take through life. But I think it helped me that I had strong technical background in the law and in the claims, and that permitted me to talk very technically about our product and about the risk exposure. And that, especially as a wholesale broker, is very important because fundamentally I want business to be brought to me by a retail broker, and they've got to have the belief that by bringing the business to me, I had the background, experience, knowledge, and so on to be able to make sure that their clients' insurance needs were being dealt with in the appropriate way. The right insurance product with the right terms and conditions was going to be put in place. So it was very important for me to develop confidence in the potential retail agents that I could do that. And I actually think that's served me well. I've been doing it now almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And I think that's served me well throughout that time. And still is an important part of what I do day to day.
Maybe for the people who are not really familiar with this concept of retail and a wholesale broker,
Yes.
In a few words, if you can just explain the difference and then what are the important things what are the main differences between the two in terms of skills and
So the concept is that the retailer is perhaps a generalist, but has the relationship with the client.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The wholesaler is a specialist. Let me give you a hypothetical. Let's say that the retail agent, his brother-in-law is the CFO of a company that's about to go public. He doesn't want to lose the business. He wants to be able to handle the business, but he knows enough to know that he really doesn't have the background, skills, knowledge base to place D&O insurance for a publicly traded company in the U.S. So he will come to me, he or she, I should add, will come to me and say, can you meet with me and to talk to my brother-in-law about why we can handle their D&O insurance. And I will help that individual by convincing his brother-in-law that, yes, together the two of us absolutely can place the D&O insurance for you. And what I would bring to the table is the knowledge of the market, the different insurers, the differences in their forms, and to be able to make recommendations for that particular company with its particular needs. What's the best way to structure, how much insurance to buy, answer all of those kinds of questions. So it's a specialty approach that allows a more generalist. It's actually for the big international brokers, they do exactly the same thing. They're just both in-house functions.
Right.
They'll have a client-facing team that interacts with the buyer, and then they'll have somebody upstairs, or maybe downstairs, depending on how you look at it, that has the specialty product knowledge. It works exactly the same way. the difference is for my retail agents who typically are smaller, they don't have that expertise in house.
Yeah, no, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Now it's quite clear, and but I think one point that I want to highlight is just, as you say, this difference that makes having all this knowledge, and so that you can explain the risk, the terms, the policy, etc., etc., and actually making a little bit publicity of D&O Training Hub. The idea is exactly to promote the importance of having this technical knowledge, the legal knowledge. You know, as what happens is in brokers and insurers working on D&O come from different backgrounds. You had the chance to become from a legal background, which I think gave you strong obviously knowledge on the legal aspect, and even as you were working for this law firm. But I think not all D&O professionals have this background, so that's why we insist a lot for people to develop this knowledge, and which will help them to stand out in the industry.
I absolutely think that's true, Arturo. I mean, I completely agree with that intellectual approach.
Which, by the way, thanks. I take advantage to thank you for your contributions on the training side, on the D&O Training Hub. So, by the way, you know, in this broker, at some point, I want to ask you about the D&O Diary.
Yes.
And on the time progression.
Yeah.
After the broker, the question is why you left, and then what happened next.
Yeah.
And then eventually at what point you started the D&O Diary? You know?
It was pretty soon after I joined my colleagues to become a broker. Essentially, I didn't have anything to do right at first because I didn't have any business. And I was interested in the blogging format.
That was in 2006?
2006, so blogging was still a relatively new thing. So really almost as a way to learn about the technology, I started playing with, there used to be an app on Google called Blogger. It was free, and you could very quickly establish a blog, which I did, really just as an experiment. I had no intent of, having it becoming something that, 20 years later I would still be doing. But
so yeah, by the way, it's going to be soon the 20th anniversary of the...
It will be, so this is March 2025. It will be May 2026. So
that's impressive.
Yeah, it's hard to believe too. Yeah.
But it's a lot of work. I mean,
yeah, it is.
I've been looking at old articles for different topics and reasons. Is just impressive. The productivity of the blog. I mean, I am struggle to imagine how many hours of work are into that blog. So.
It takes a lot of time. I'm not going to lie. It does. It takes a lot of time.
So yeah, I think I'm sure people wonder how this started to as you just explained how it started. Yeah. And I myself, I'm always asked this question: how you organize this? If you block a certain time during the week, or if over the years you have developed a certain discipline to write, because we also know that certain periods of the year you provide an article at the end of the year of the main top stories of that year. So if you can tell us that would be, I think, really interesting for people to know more about, what's happening behind.
So in terms of how it became what it is now, very quickly after I started it, a scandal emerged, the options backdating scandal. Many people listening may not even been born yet when that happened, but it was a very large corporate scandal in the U.S., and it had evolved very quickly. And that gave me something to write about that people wanted to read about. So it was, I was fortunate that I had something that drew people to the site because I gathered information about this scandal and made it available for others to have. And then after that came the global financial crisis. And that's really where I became established.
Sure, 2008.
Yeah. So after that, that was where my readership really started to climb, where I started developing international readership. Your questions about the process, I work it whenever I have the time. It's very hard now while I'm traveling, but I still have my responsibilities to my portfolio. I have my responsibilities to my team. I have my responsibilities to my corporate management, and I have to fulfill those. So whenever those things give me the time, but honestly, I will wind up writing in the evening. I will wind up writing on the weekends. The good news for me is I enjoy it. It really is gratifying. And it's very helpful to have the requirement to sit and write down things, to think things through and decide what you think about things. That's very helpful. It feeds my day job because sure. it helps me organize my thoughts. It helps me form opinions. It ensures that if I'm in a business meeting and somebody asks a question about something topical, I'm prepared. I'm ready to have the answer. And so it does feed my day job. It really does help. And obviously developing the profile that comes from having the blog helps me establish my professional reputation, which enables me to get more business because I have a profile within the industry that attracts business. So they do feed each other. And honestly, I couldn't just stop and blog because the things I have to do day to day for our clients and for my colleagues, the questions I have to answer, the problems that emerge, really help me think about what should I be writing about. Right. And so the two really do feed each other. I think having the day job makes me a better blogger, and having the blog makes me better in my day job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can see that. I think the other question I always had is, do you do the articles all by yourself, or do you have people helping you to go and find some material?
I do get help. You're probably aware I do have guest posts from time to time. And I do very helpfully get suggestions or questions from readers that often translate into blog posts. But making the blog, writing it, coming up with the topics, that's all just me.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I'm also underwriting, so I also do additional activities on the D&O Training Hub, but it's not easy to find the time. It's something very nice to have. It means to have the opportunity to travel, to meet professionals who share a common interest on D&O, and I think it allows you to see what's happening in different jurisdictions in terms of D&O, which I don't know if there's many people in the world who have this international perspective. Obviously, we have experts in each countries, but somebody having this global perspective, I think should be quite unique.
A couple of things make it possible, for which I get no credit. But one is that we speak, business is done around the world in English, which is my native language. If there weren't that, I could never go to Beijing and speak to an audience of Chinese lawyers, which I have done, which I was able to do because they all spoke English. The other is the internet, because it reaches anybody that wants to know about D&O insurance can easily find me, and they do. And so those two things, among some others, contribute significantly to my ability to develop an international reach.
Well, I really, all my respects and admiration for this, and I think more than one person, I'm sure when they look at all what you're doing, I'm sure it can be a source of inspiration and to have a goal. Maybe one day other people want to be the next Kevin LaCroix or next D&O Diary. Why not? Maybe somebody in the D&O world.
Yeah.
And I think we are almost at the end. Unfortunately, time went very fast.
It did go very quickly.
I think one question that can be interesting for people watching, listening on D&O. Can you tell us a bit your view on the evolution of D&O as product, as segment? In your view, have you seen some changes? I mean, obviously from the technical perspective, there's a lot of information about trends and something you discuss all the time, but maybe as a profession, as some patterns that you have seen, some changes that you see, this is changing for me, where the profession is going, and bottom line, some advice or with respect to how people can prepare for changes that you are seeing in the industry, and what advice you will give for people in the industry to keep prepare for these changes. Maybe AI, everybody is one of the topics today. Is one day AI going to replace underwriters? I hope not, obviously. And personally, I don't think so. But this is the overall question.
So, just to answer your question quickly, I think probably the most important change is that the personnel base of the insurance industry has changed a lot during the more than 40 years I've been doing it, by gender, by race, by educational background. It's become much more specialized as well. And I think the underwriters today are much more better educated and much more sophisticated, especially about financial issues. I think as a result, our profession has become more professional. I think, and it's something I take a lot of heart because I see these talented young people coming into the industry. I speak every year at an event in India, and I absolutely love this event because it's this burgeoning, growing industry in India. They're so young. They're in their late 20s, early 30s. They have so much enthusiasm. They're so bright. They're so well educated, and I have just a great deal of. It gives me a lot of optimism for our industry. How do you prepare for what I see coming? Continue to work on your skills always. Develop your professional network, which I know is a cliche, but that just means forming friendships. It's not any more complicated than that. But don't just think that my target is to try and develop contacts of people above me. It's people all around you. One of my best friends in the industry is a person that I met when I was an associate at a law firm, and he was a summer clerk. And we became friends when he was a summer clerk, but he's gone on to become one of the most important people in the industry. But that's how we knew each other. And we've always been friends. And as a result, we have a great professional relationship as well, but we're friends first. And I think that's the way you develop a professional network. The final thing is, and this one, I don't even think most people think of it as a thing, but I think you need to focus on your reputation. How do you want to be known? And I think take out a piece of paper and write on a piece of paper what you want people to think about you in 20 years. And I hope it will say things like honest, intelligent, diligent, trustworthy. And then how do I develop that reputation? How do I become known as an honest person? How do I become known as an intelligent person? And to always be mindful of the fact that the people all around you are developing that reputation by what you're saying and what you're doing. And I think that's a job that never ends. You're doing it every second of every day. It never ends. But you can work on it every second of every day too. You can absolutely undermine it very quickly if you make a mistake. But I think if you stay focused, you keep your values, keep your principles, you can achieve that. That's something that's achievable. It's not something distant, and it's going to happen whether you focus on it or not. You know, you're going to have a reputation.
That's true. That's
So
very, very true.
that would be my advice to especially someone's just starting out in the industry.
That's a great advice.
Yeah.
You're totally right.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that you can accomplish. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not out of reach, impossible.
Well, it's going to happen either way.
Exactly.
You're going to have a reputation. So if you're focused on it and mindful about it, maybe you can drive it towards a way that's beneficial, and you can take pride in yourself and what you do as well.
Well, Kevin, thanks for this advice, and I think this will be a good way to end this interview.
Yeah.
And again, I want to thank you a lot for your time and for sharing all of this today. And thank you very much.
Arturo, thank you for having me. I enjoy this a lot.